call.
This meeting is now
New
being
initiatives
recorded.
that we have, new initiatives that we have launched, and towards the end, we would have some kind of a, probably an open interaction where we can try and understand how to mature these initiatives forward as we speak. So for many on the call, familiar names, Vijay Shah, etc. from Future Group, they understand what what we have to offer from a SAP standpoint. So I'll probably make it quite quick. As you know, it has been SAP's constant efforts to offer an integrated piece of solutions that actually can compromise and support your GRC framework. So we have certain basic components that make up this particular framework. So we start off with risk management on the left, where you can actually see a process where you could help automate the enterprise-wide risk framework that you currently are managing, probably manually in most of the cases. And typically it's an Excel medium that's used today to maintain your risk registers. So you could very well have this automated using the risk management solution that we have, followed by a framework that will help you deploy a whistleblower tool to unearth control deviations as and when they are happening in your environment, whether it be SAP or non-SAP, to help you understand where to focus. So it's more of a manage by exception from a controls standpoint to help you understand where are those weaknesses, where are those deviations happening across your business processes, which would warrant relevant stakeholder intervention. That's the fundamental objective of process controls, and of course the fundamental layer of access controls that typically helps streamline the compliant access management across the enterprise. So now, if you typically look at user access management, what this would mean is currently the process of provisioning a user, as and when a person joins the company or gets transferred or his role is changed or when he retires or resigns, the entire process of ensuring the authorization within the environment is something that is automated using the access management, user access management or access controls as we speak. So it's not about just automating the user access, but also getting in a compliance into it, whereby we can say that as and when a user is being granted an authorization in the SAP environment or a non-SAP environment, you would also check for possible risks on account of segregation of duty violations. So the solution as we speak has got the capability of automating the access request from an IDM system, or if need be from an HR system, or it could be a request that's raised manually in the access controls solution, and then routing it through the entire, I would say, process of conducting the risk analysis for segregation of duty violations and getting the necessary approvals in place before it is automatically provisioned or deprovisioned from your operational landscapes, whether it be SAP or non-SAP. So we do offer an integration with leading IDM solutions out there in the market, and of course we have our own IDM solution, which is NetWeaver IDM. Now, for customers who don't have access controls, okay, this is an initiative that we've launched, and quite a few customers have benefited out of it in terms of understanding what their existing access violations are and help them take an informed decision whether they would want to go in for an automation on this front. So we've launched something called as an access health check. We also call it the integrity health check. It's a 2-week exercise that we perform. And the entire exercise is performed offline. So if you ask me from a timeline perspective, what we do here is there are some scripts that we share with the customer, and the customer would execute those scripts in the SAP environment that will typically unearth the user authorizations the way they are configured as of date. We port them into the access controls solution and conduct a complete assessment of the user authorizations and come out with an informative report that will educate the customer with respect to what is the status of the current SOD violations and what are those top 25 violations, if need be, which they need to address. And basis this finding, if the customer really feels that yes, this is an issue which has to be managed going forward in a sustainable manner, and doing these kind of periodic assessments either through the audit firms or any other agency is not the right way of doing it, then they could, if need be, if they feel relevant, decide to help automate the user provisioning in a compliant manner using the access controls solution. So this is an exercise that we do. And of course, it's done through one of our endorsed business solution partner. So we've launched it jointly with them, and the partner's name here is Greenlight Technologies. As I said, it's a 2-week exercise, end to end, and there's a small token that we charge, which is not, very exorbitant. We charge an amount of about 1.5 lakhs for this whole exercise, end to end, to help you unearth the current status of SOD violations in your environment, in your SAP environment. Now, the next component that we had spoken about is on the process controls front. What is the essence of process controls? Today, if you look at it, there is a huge bandwidth issue amongst various stakeholders in the organization. So whether it be the CFO's office or the audit office or the relevant business owners across, procurement, supply chain, manufacturing, distribution, logistics, retail, for example, in case of Future Group, etc. There is a huge, I would say, bandwidth issue where they would not find time to focus on areas where there are control deviations happening, because the focus is on business, the focus is to grow business and be competitive out there in the market. So many of them, when we speak to them, they appreciate the need for a whistleblower tool that will typically unearth areas where there are control deviations, which could then be taken up with the relevant stakeholders. So for example, if there are deviations, if you look at this particular slide, it talks about a typical procure-to-pay process. And you could very well appreciate that there could be controls deployed in a process which could be in the nature of configurations, which could be transaction-related controls, which are normally enforced as and when the person transacts in the system. And of course, there are master data that is maintained, which typically feed these transactions or consumed in these transactions. So across various aspects of the process, there could be a lot of controls which you typically would want to monitor. And humanly, it is impossible to monitor these controls. And even if you rely on audit, you put a lot of weightage on chance. The chance that the auditor would come and unearth these kind of exceptions for you, and then you could take probably corrective action. And typically, with the kind of audits that are happening today, getting things real time is next to impossible. So, and if an audit happens in a particular period, they would unearth something which has already happened a couple of months ago, and then there's a lot of time wasted with respect to understanding why those deviations happened, and in terms of justifying them in the context of business why it happened. Because obviously the intent of this particular tool is not to question. The intent of the tool is to help the process owner, to help the auditor, to help the relevant stakeholders within the organization to understand the status across the environment and take informed decisions with respect to how the controls environment has to be managed if they are compromised at certain aspects or at certain intervals, as the case may be. So that's the very intent of process controls. Of course, with the latest, with the version 10 of process controls, we also got certain enhancements to it, which is policy management. So you could also very well automate your policies. It could be a HR policy with respect to code of conduct. It could be, a purchasing policy, when it comes to supply chain. It could be a financial policy if need be. Okay, you could very well have these kind of policies very well documented in the system and then communicated or to the respective stakeholders, and they could very well in the system give acknowledgement of the fact that they've understood the policy, and it's a better way to manage the fact that policies have been distributed to the relevant stakeholders and they have agreed to comply with these policies going forward, the way it typically impacts their daily operation. So policy management is something which is an integral part of our solution at the moment. And so is surveys. So for example, if you typically would want to do surveys, etc., you could very well have these consumed as a part of the process controls tool. So what is that we have done here? So in using process controls, which typically acts as a whistleblowing tool, to help you understand where those control deviations are, we also offer through one of our partners, Bosch, predefined content for about 142 statutes as applicable in India. So when we talk about statutes, it typically would mean the Companies Act, the SAB, if you're listed, the direct and indirect taxes, so income tax, service tax, VAT, excise, PF, customs, the Factories Act if need be, okay, and a whole lot of these statutes where we predefine what are the various compliances that you typically need to perform as a part of your legal compliance process, and we can automate the whole thing using process controls. So what we also found out, since Bosch has come up with this particular initiative in terms of offering it as a part of our process controls solution, we found that there are about 500 odd controls, okay, which could typically be automated in the context of legal compliances. So what this essentially would mean is, say for example, TDS. TDS is due to be paid to the government on the 7th of every month, and I think most of us understand this. So I will say on the first or the second of the month, you could very well send out an alert to the concerned person who is responsible for depositing TDS with the government. On the 5th of the month, if the TDS account, liability account, is still not affected for TDS payments, you could very well send it as a reminder to the concerned person, and assume that the TDS is still not deposited by the 7th of the month for some reason. Have it as a non-compliance flagged off in red under the Income Tax Act, and thus would help the relevant stakeholders to get involved and correct it before the damage is done in the long run. So while you have a zero tolerance policy for certain legal compliances, but very well it helps you be on top of it in an integrated fashion, because there are a lot of tools out there in the market that offer a legal compliance kind of a framework, and those are all checklist based solutions. They are not integrated with the operational landscape in any manner, where most of the transactions are normally affected. So whether it be a excise implication in your purchase process, or a sales process, or whether it be a customs implication in your import-export kind of a process, whether it be a tedious kind of a requirement in your financial processes, or whether it be, let's say, some hiring processes in terms of compliance with the Factories Act to ensure there are no child labor which is typically employed in any particular process within the company. So if you want to typically monitor these kind of aspects, you could very well have an integrated legal compliance deployed on process controls with the 142 different, I would say, statutes pre-packaged as a part of our solution as offered by Bosch. So an initiative that I wanted to typically share with you, and quite a few people with whom we've been talking on these lines have shown interest, because they feel that yes, while I'm able to use the same tool for controls monitoring from a financial standpoint, from an audit standpoint, from a business standpoint, I could very well extend the same tool to cover legal compliance as well. The third aspect is risk management. So fundamentally, all these initiatives have to tie up to the enterprise-wide risk framework. So our risk management tool again has got the capability of integrating with SAP or non-SAP systems and automating the key risk indicators from a risk perspective. So if you typically look at it from a senior management standpoint, they would focus on probably around 15 risks. Not more than 15. So these could be pure play business risks. So it could be an operational risk, it could be a regulatory risk, it could be a market risk, it could be a financial risk, so on and so forth, or it could be a human capital risk. If you're fearing some brain drain from your environment. So these are the top broad categories of risks that the senior management would be bothered about from a business standpoint. The recent one being which is being spoken about being environmental risk. Okay, after what's happened in Uttarakhand, etc., I'm sure a lot of focus will be on this aspect as well, on how we managing our business from a social standpoint. So, you could typically help automate this entire risk management process in the form of our tool. So what you're seeing on the screen today is actually a UI which has changed in a big way from what it was earlier. So it's more graphical, where you can actually drag and drop and draw up your risk register. But that is just not it. You could very well have it integrated with your operational, environment. The essence of risk management here is all about collaboration. So you could very well collaborate with your peers and the relevant stakeholders and assess your risks and come to an agreement with respect to what exactly are your tolerances, with the capability of driving responses and controls out of the risk management tool, because the risk management tool is tightly integrated with the process controls application as well. Now, you could also have key risk indicators automated. So as I said, you could see the flags coming out automatically in the risk management tool from your operational landscape. So depending upon your risk tolerances, the system will be able to unearth where those deviations are, and then flag it off, to bring notice to the relevant ones which require attention. So probably the management would want to focus on something like a heat map. It tells them that, okay, there are certain risks which fall in the amber or the red, and then that's where you typically need to focus on. Of course, with respect to the GRC solutions, when we speak about access controls, process controls, and risk management, we have also recently launched version 10.1. 10.1 comes with a whole lot of enhancements and is currently on ramp-up. So we are encouraging customers to sign up for ramp-up for the 10.1 application. Customers who haven't implemented or are contemplating the implementation of our GRC solutions, we will welcome them to let us know so that we can help them with the nominations for the ramp-up, and you could very well have the latest versions deployed within your environment to manage whether it be an access controls solution or if need be a process control solution, or for that matter a risk management solution. What we also done is, as I speak, the objective is to have a collaborative kind of a process which is integrated to help manage your entire G, the R, and the C. From a standpoint. Of course, the G aspect is a bit more, ambiguous here, because there are a lot of other solution components that will come into the picture when we talk about, like, say, governance as a topic. But more from a risk and a compliance kind of a standpoint, it's to help. It is basically driven to help, to help you integrate the entire environment with the technology to give you the right kind of insights to manage the exception. What we also done is, in the current year, February of 2013, we've launched a new solution called fraud management, because what we feel is when you typically approach the topic of risks and when you approach the topic of controls, you could clearly bifurcate between two broad kind of approaches. One is approaching the known. So when I say approaching the known, it would typically mean that experiences that are in the past. So we know that there are vulnerabilities in probably an area of, say, procurement or distribution or logistics or finance or asset management, as the case may be, and then we know that, okay, fine, these are the controls that we need to plug from a lab's perspective. So this is the topic of control. So we are managing the known. We know that, okay, fine, these are the controls we need to monitor. But the flip side is there is an unknown. When we say it's an unknown, we just look at data, and when we get data from various sources. So, for example, in a retail context, it could be a point of sale solution, from a treasury kind of a solution, from a back office application, from outside sources. So it could be records that you are eligible to access if need be. It could be the phone records of employees or any other information, as the case may be, and then correlate with this kind of data by drawing various patterns to find out, are there intents or are there I would say trends that indicate that there's a possible kind of a misuse in the context of a fraud. So fundamentally, the objective of this tool is to help you get those right kind of alerts and patterns with the power of predictive to help you work on the alert to prove the motive and the opportunity. Because if there's an alert that comes from the system, which says, okay, this is what you typically need to look at, you can't immediately conclude that, yeah, there was a fraudulent intent. Your objective will be to basically investigate. Your objective will be to investigate to prove the motive and the opportunity behind a particular action by an individual or a group of individuals, and then conclude whether there was actually in the nature of a fraud. So that's exactly what a fraud management tool can do. And then once it is done, the objective of fraud management is to translate the entire findings of the investigation into process controls, because now it becomes a known, and you start monitoring these kind of controls, within the process controls framework. So you say that, fine, the fraud management tool gave me certain new insights that I was not aware of. Now I'm actually trying to revamp my process, redesign my process, add on more controls, probably reinforce the existing controls, and then continuously going forward monitor it in terms of exceptions using the process controls mechanism. So that's how the whole solution is broadly articulated. The whole solution is broadly designed.
The person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. जिस व्यक्ति
So now, with that, I would like to broadly conclude and make an announcement here. So what we've done is, for the benefit of our customers, okay, both existing customers and prospects, we are thinking of launching. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the special interest group. We are thinking of launching a similar kind of a special interest group for GRC. Now, and here is where I typically would encourage feedback. It could be over a mail to Mukesh, or it could be a mail to me, as the case may be. The objective of the special interest group is multifold. We will have regular meetings, and these meetings will typically encourage feedback from customers to help enrich our solutions, to help mature our solutions for the benefit of all. It will also be in the direction of certain initiatives like co-innovation. So, for example, Gujarat Gas, when they got to know that segregation of duty rule sets within access controls is not delivered for IS utilities as an industry solution, they signed up a co-innovation agreement with SAP. So over the last, I would say, close to a year, they worked very closely with SAP Labs to build the segregation of duty rules for IS utilities, for their benefit, because it will be then supported by SAP, and going forward, it could be productized and offered to the benefit of other customers as well. So we would encourage participation from our customers, under the special interest group on multiple aspects. So A, it could be in the nature of co-innovation. B, it could be in the nature of, like, say, consuming our solutions and giving us structured feedback in terms of areas of improvement. Or, for that matter, educating other customers with respect to how is it that they have solved certain problems using the GRC solutions, so that they could also, sort of embrace it and decide that, fine, this is the way typically, we could all coexist. So we also have, from SAP Labs, Mr. Venkat Adhikama Sethi, who heads the development and the quality for our GRC solutions. And I would be working very closely with Venkat Adhikama Sethi, depending upon the feedback that I get from all of you, to launch this officially in India. And then we will put a charter to it in terms of how is it that all of us will work together on this topic. So it could actually be, regular or periodic virtual meetings, and probably a structured kind of a feedback which all of us could consume and improvise upon. So with this, I would like to conclude on my presentation and open it up for Q&A. Venkat, if you have certain points to make, I mean, most welcome. And we encourage, as I said, feedback either in the call today or as an email, to Mukesh, which all of us would then, sort of work on, and then formally work towards launching the special interest group for GRC in India.
Yeah. So, Murali, am I audible? Venkat here.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Excellent. So, thanks, Murali. I think, you actually have briefed the whole purpose of having special interest group. A couple of points I would like to add here. My name is Venkat Krishna Adhikam Shetty. I'm development manager for GRC. And we have strong 40 plus developers sitting in India, both Gurgaon and Bangalore, and supporting 3,000 plus GRC customers across world, access, process, and risk management. So, and what I want to mention here is we have strong capabilities, from the development, maintenance, of GRC applications. So we are already doing that. The other thing is we have a special interest group which are active, especially in EMEA and US, Americas, part of ASAG and DSAG. So we would like to take the similar approach where we would like to create a special interest group in India as part of Indus, and then have focused discussions both with prospects and along with the existing customers. Existing customers, we would like to discuss more on innovations. For example, we have a couple of new products, HANA new analytics, fraud management, and what's coming up in 10.1, for example. So all these topics we can discuss in a focused group. And for prospects, we can definitely help them to understand GRC applications as a whole suite. So that's the idea. And as Murali mentioned, we definitely would like to start with webinars, and then, probably a one-day workshop can be arranged for all the, all the customers who have signed up for special interest groups. So there is a lot of, advantage, for you all customers, if you can sign up with this special interest group. And we have a program called as Customer Connection, where we would like to work with customers closely, as Murali mentioned, in terms of the feedback, in terms of certain enhancements, where they would like to keep part of standard product. So those are the points we would like to have further discussions as part of our special interest group, if you all agree upon. So that's all from my side, Murali and Mukesh.
Fine. Thanks, Mukesh. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Venkat. And thanks, Murali, for hosting this for us. Yeah, sorry, Murali, go on.
Yeah, so I just wanted to conclude. I mean, so again, primarily thanking everybody who could take time out to attend this particular call. And I'm sure all of you would appreciate, the kind of, at least, initiatives that we're trying to run in India, because we see India as a, kind of a strategic market where we feel that working in close collaboration with key stakeholders and the customers will help enhance and mature, our solutions, and will be a benefit to all of us. So with this, I would like to conclude the call and hand it over to Mukesh.
Thanks, Murali. Thanks, Venkat. So we'll open it up for questions now. So if you have, if anyone on the call has any questions, it will be a good time to ask now. Any questions, any comments for Murali and Venkat? Okay. Looks like no questions. So as an update, I have already uploaded the slides used for today's call on the JAM group. I will also be uploading the recording of this call on the JAM group. I will also send you a follow-up email asking if you would be interested in participating in a GRC special interest group. It would be great if you can respond back to those emails. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.
Okay.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.